It began with Leo. Leo Vance. To me, he was everything. Charming in that unintentional way that drew you in, generous with laughter, and with a gaze that could quiet the world around us. Leo had a quiet sort of magic, and I had been completely under its spell. For 2 years, we built a life in a sun-drenched to small apartment. We sketched our future on coffee shop napkins, me dreaming of launching a boutique publishing house, Leo sketching his ideal architectural firm with affordable but breathtaking homes. It felt like a shared dream, a quiet, steady rhythm of two souls growing together. But our dream lived in the long shadow of a formidable figure, Elena Vance, Leo's mother. She wasn't just some controlling parent. She was the high priestess of social dominance. Elena ran Vance's on the Square, a culinary shrine to her own flawless taste, the city's most exclusive dining experience, where reputation, not the menu, pulled in the crowds. Leo spoke of her with reverence laced with fear. She was power incarnate, and for 2 years, he had kept her at bay. She's just a lot, he'd say, voice tight, eyes averted. I never pushed. I assumed he was waiting for the right moment. That moment came. On his 30th birthday, he announced we were going to dinner. Not just any dinner. Vance's on the Square, a private birthday meal. With Elena, the whole day, Leo was a wreck. Fidgeting, pacing, rehearsing lines. Just be yourself, he told me, which, of course, meant please be someone she won't disapprove of. Vance's wasn't a restaurant. It was an altar, high-backed chairs, oil paintings of solemn ancestors, and servers who moved like ghosts. The diners whispered more than spoke. There was no warmth, only performance. A tea, the center of this shrine, said Elena Vance, ice queen in a tailored navy sheath, posture rigid and unnervingly elegant. She offered her hand like a relic, cold and devoid of warmth. Jessica, she said, inspecting me like a rare artifact at auction. My shoes, my dress, my posture, all silently catalogued. She didn't dine with us. She interrogated me with the delicacy of a scalpel. She asked about my family. Your father teaches public school? How noble. My freelance work, that must be so liberating. And my aspirations, small publishing, a darling little industry. Then came the food. Now, I need you to know something. I wasn't just a girl dating her son. I was also the anonymous mind behind the Urban Palate, the city's most feared and revered food critic. My reviews had taken down celebrity chefs and crowned noodle shops. No one knew my identity, not even Leo. My secret weapon was honesty. Brutal, meticulous honesty. So when our first course arrived, a pompous trilogy of heirloom beets with goat cheese espuma and balsamic pearls, I knew immediately. This was a culinary con. 3 paper-thin beet slices, goat cheese foam that evaporated into nothing, balsamic beads like sad, sour caviar. It was aesthetic trickery with no soul. Elena moaned in delight. Isn't Chef Anton just a visionary? So complex. I offered the safest reply I could muster. The colors are striking. Her gaze sharpened, zeroing in like a hawk. Just the colors? I suppose rustic palates can miss nuance. Rustic palates. The main course was even worse, pan-seared scallops on a saffron risotto with lemon butter foam. The scallops were rubbery. The risotto, glue with a hint of seafood regret. Still, I endured. Until dessert, when Elena decided the food wasn't enough, she leaned in, dropping the pretense. Our family values pedigree, Jessica. Legacy. We build empires, not rescue dreams. My breath caught. My son, he's generous, with a brilliant future. And I must protect that from opportunists. She let the word hang. Gold digger. I looked to Leo, silently begging for support. He flinched, then said nothing. He stared at his plate. Her cruelty was weaponized. His silence was complicity. I waited. I prayed he would defend me. Rise, rage, even whisper. Instead, he mumbled, Mom, please. Not here. Not here. He wasn't ashamed of her. He was embarrassed by me, by the scene. That was the moment. The one where everything that had felt like love dissolved. He wasn't the man I needed. He was a boy hiding behind his mother's apron strings. I stood, my voice calm and clear. Thank you for the meal, Elena. It was illuminating. And I walked out, leaving Leo in the ruins of our imagined future. The silence in the apartment after that dinner was louder than any argument we could have had. I sat on the edge of the bed, still in the dress I wore to the restaurant, staring at the floor as if I could find the right response somewhere in the fibers of the carpet. Leo hovered nearby, a mess of nervous energy, trying to frame his mother's venom as some sort of social fox paws rather than what it truly was: calculated cruelty. She didn't mean it that way, he kept saying, like a chant he thought would cast a spell over the wound. She just wants what's best for me. Best. That word again. Best? According to whom? A woman who had judged my entire worth in the span of 5 minutes by the brand of my handbag and the pedigree of my father. She called me a gold digger. Leo, I said, my voice flat and stunned. She questioned my integrity, my love for you. And you just sat there. He flinched as if I'd struck him. It was my birthday. I didn't want a scene. And I didn't want to be humiliated. I snapped, the pain turning sharp and cold. But here we are. That night, I didn't sleep. I lay awake staring at the ceiling, my mind spinning not just with anger but with a clarity I hadn't felt in months. I had been fighting for a version of Leo that only existed in memory. The man who stood by silently while his mother eviscerated me wasn't a glitch in the code, he was the system. He didn't want conflict because he didn't want to choose. But by not choosing, he already had. The next morning, I rose early, moved by an instinct I couldn't explain. I packed a small bag and left the apartment. I walked for hours through the city, through neighborhoods buzzing with life and laughter, where no one knew or cared about pedigrees or saffron foam or heirloom beat trilogies. I ended up at my favorite hole-in-the-wall noodle shop. The owner, Mrs. Liang, knew me only as a loyal customer who tipped well and always finished her bowl. She smiled and waved me to my usual seat by the steamed-up window. When the bowl of ramen arrived piping hot, its aroma rich with garlic and ginger, I felt the first flicker of warmth in my chest. The first spark of something that wasn't sorrow or anger, just honesty, comfort, realness. I pulled out my notebook, not the laptop, not the blog, just pen and paper. I started to write, not about Elena, not yet, but about the feeling, the contrast, the lie of luxury and the truth of flavor. It poured out of me, not as a review but as a reflection, raw and unfiltered. Back at the apartment, Leo was waiting. He looked like he hadn't slept either. His hair was a mess. His voice cracked when he said my name. I talked to her, he said. She didn't mean it, Jess. She just thinks I know what she thinks, I said, cutting him off. The question is, what do you think? He hesitated. That was all I needed. Okay, I whispered. Okay. I walked to our shared closet, pulled out a suitcase, and began folding clothes. Not angrily, not dramatically, just decisively. I didn't slam drawers. I didn't sob. I just moved. Leo stood frozen. You're leaving? No, Leo. I'm setting myself free. He tried to argue. He tried to apologize. He even cried. But it was too late. The trust had been broken, not with a single insult, but by the silence that followed it. Silence is not neutral. Silence is complicity. By nightfall, I was gone. A friend with a spare room gave me sanctuary. I sat on the borrowed bed, surrounded by boxes of my life, and opened my laptop. I didn't cry. I didn't hesitate. I wrote. I wrote with the precision of someone who had nothing left to lose and everything to say. I wrote not as Jessica the girlfriend but as the urban palate, the voice that couldn't be silenced, the critic who feared no chef, no empire, and certainly no self-important matriarch. I wrote what I had tasted, what I had endured, what I had seen, and when I was done, I pressed publish. The post went live at 1:17 a.m. I stared at the publish banner across my screen, the glow of the monitor painting my face in cool defiance. I knew what I'd done, and I knew what it meant. By morning, the food world was on fire. The notifications were relentless: retweets, shares, comments, tags. It was as if I'd thrown a spark into a field of dry grass and watched the flames race to the horizon. Vance's on the square, the emperor's new cuisine was the headline. Subtle, devastating. The urban palate had spoken, and the city was listening. My inbox filled with thank yous from chefs and patrons who had always suspected the truth but were too afraid to speak it aloud. Diners who had been made to feel small by Elena's palace of cold perfection. Staff members who had been belittled, dismissed, made invisible behind that pristine front-of-house smile. And then came the article in the city's most prestigious food publication. Has the queen of the square been dethroned? The review was quoted in full, dissected like scripture. They called it the most fearless critique of the decade. One headline simply read, "The urban palate has teeth, but Leo was the real explosion." Around noon, my phone buzzed. His name flashed on the screen. I answered with a strange calm, sipping coffee like it was just any other Monday. "Jess," he said breathlessly. "Oh my God, are you okay?" "Good morning to you too," I replied evenly. "There's this post some crazy blogger completely destroyed my mom's restaurant. It's going viral. We've lost 100 reservations in a few hours." She's in shock. I'm freaking out. This is really bad." He was pacing. I could hear the sound of his dress shoes clicking against the marble floor of their world. "That sounds awful," I said. "What a vicious thing to do." It's not just a bad review. It's personal. This person had an axe to grind. It's like they were at that dinner. The details, Jess? They mentioned the scallops, the beet foam, even the chandeliers. My silence said everything. Then it hit him. A long pause, and then softly, "Jess, it was you, wasn't it?" I took a slow sip of coffee. "My blog is anonymous, Leo. But you, the scallops? And that line about the soup shop 2 blocks away, that's our place." I let the pause hang in the air before twisting the knife. Maybe it was a gold digger. I could hear the breath leave his lungs like someone had punched him. Silence again. Then, "No, you didn't. You couldn't. You let your mother call me that," I said quietly. "You sat there and let her reduce everything I am to a label. You didn't protect me, so I protected myself. You destroyed her." "No, Leo," I said. "She destroyed herself. I just showed the world the truth." He hung up. I let the silence return. This time, it was mine. An hour later, another number called blocked, but I knew who it was. I answered. "You little witch," hissed Elena Vance, her voice unrecognizable in its rage. "You think you've won? You think a nasty little blog post can bring me down?" I sat back in the chair, smiled slightly. "Did you read the whole thing? You will take it down. You will issue an apology, or I swear, I will sue you into the ground." "You can try," I said evenly. But I stated my experience. I paid for my meal. I wrote the truth. And the truth is not defamation. You ruined my restaurant. No, Elena. You served mediocre food in a gilded cage. All I did was pull back the curtain. I will destroy you. "No," I said softly. "You already tried. But you underestimated me. You thought I was just the girl your son dated. You never once asked who I was outside of him. Turns out, I have a voice, and people listen." She shrieked something unintelligible and hung up. I stared at the screen a moment longer, watching the page views tick upward like a silent metronome of justice. That night, I received a message from a small ramen shop. They wanted to thank me. Business had tripled. They were hiring extra staff. They offered me free noodles for life. I smiled, then closed the laptop. I had said what I needed to say. The city had heard me. In the weeks that followed, Vance's on the square unraveled like an overpriced souffle left too long in the heat. At first, Elena tried to weather the storm with poise. She issued a public statement dismissing the review as a baseless personal attack from a coward hiding behind anonymity. But the damage was done. It wasn't just my review anymore. Other critics, once silent or complicit, began to echo the same sentiments. Former employees came forward anonymously, confirming my claims. Diners began sharing photos of their underwhelming meals and stories of being looked down upon by Elena's icy front-of-house staff. It wasn't just a hit piece anymore. It had become a movement. The restaurant hemorrhaged patrons. For every loyal elite customer who tried to rally behind her, 10 more canceled reservations. Within a month, the emperor's new cuisine had entered the city's lexicon as a phrase to describe anything expensive and overrated. Even the city's health department launched a surprise inspection, citing complaints about improper food storage. A little Easter egg from my earlier reviews. The place was cited for multiple violations. Elena's spotless brand was stained, and no amount of bleach or PR spin could clean it. I watched it all happen quietly, from the comfort of a quiet cafe downtown, sipping cappuccinos and writing freelance articles for magazines that had suddenly taken a keen interest in the mystery food critic shaking the city's culinary elite. But the most fascinating fall wasn't Elena's. It was Leo's. His world collapsed in slow motion. With Vance's no longer a shining star on his resume, Leo's connections began to cool. The expensive watch his mother had gifted him was now a sad reminder of her crumbling legacy. His architecture firm, once charmed by his family name and potential social capital, began to reevaluate him. No one said it aloud, but the sparkle had faded, and perhaps worst of all, he knew exactly who had taken it away. One evening, he showed up at my doorstep. I wasn't surprised. I watched him through the peephole for a long moment before opening the door. "Jess," he said, eyes hollow. "Can we talk?" I stepped aside. He walked in slowly, like a man entering a sacred place he'd once desecrated. "I didn't come to fight," he said. I need to understand. Why did you do it? Why couldn't you just let it go?" I stared at him for a long time before speaking. "Because I let you go. The moment you let her humiliate me and stayed silent, I realized you were never going to choose me. So I chose myself." He looked down, nodding. "I didn't know she'd go that far." "No, Leo," I said quietly. "You didn't want to know. You closed your eyes and hoped the fire wouldn't reach you." He sat on the edge of my couch, fingers laced. "She says it's all my fault. That I brought you into her world. That I let you in." I gave a bitter smile. "No, she let me in. When she insulted me to my face, I just gave her the courtesy of showing everyone else who she really was." Silence filled the room like a heavy fog. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I really did love you." I believed him. But love without courage is just a warm blanket over a pit of thorns. Sooner or later, it tears. "I know," I said. "But you didn't protect me. And you didn't believe in me. And now it's too late." He left without another word, and I finally closed the door. In the quiet that followed Leo's departure, I realized I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't heartbroken either. What remained wasn't a wound, it was a scar. A sharp, clean line carved by betrayal and sealed by truth. And in that final stillness, I could see clearly. I hadn't just burned a bridge. I had dismantled an entire illusion. Alina Vance, the reigning queen of pretentious cuisine, had been dethroned not by a scandal, not by a rival chef, but by a woman she dismissed without a second glance. And her son, Leo, the golden boy groomed to inherit her legacy, had become collateral damage in the downfall of his own dynasty. It was poetic justice in its purest form. In the weeks that followed the closure of Vance's on the square, I began receiving inquiries. Food magazines wanted interviews. Literary agents reached out asking if I'd consider turning my anonymous blog into a book. A small indie publisher one I'd admired for years invited me to lunch and offered me a column. The same Jessica that Alina called a distraction, a gold digger, ambitious but unremarkable, was now being asked to lead conversations about truth and culinary journalism. I accepted a few invitations, told my story carefully, and I never once mentioned Leo by name, because this wasn't about him anymore. I moved into a slightly bigger apartment. Nothing extravagant, just a space with better light, stronger windows, and room for more books. I still cooked simple meals. I still paid for every bite of food I reviewed. The urban palate remained anonymous to the public, but insiders now whispered about the woman behind the curtain. People asked me if I regretted it taking down a family, turning love into ash. But the truth is, there was no family to ruin, and the love? It had been dying long before the fire. Alina built her world on image. I built mine on honesty. And when the two collided, only one could survive. One rainy afternoon, a letter arrived, handwritten. The envelope was thick and creamy, the handwriting meticulous. I opened it carefully, expecting venom or desperation. But it was short, just one line, really. "You were right. I never asked who you were. I only assumed." Alina, no apology, no admission of guilt, just a sentence, a single crack in the marble facade. And that was enough. I didn't need her remorse. I had reclaimed my voice, and with it something even more powerful, my worth. The last time I saw Leo was in a grocery store 6 months later. He looked smaller, not in body but in presence. He smiled faintly, eyes hesitant, like someone trying to approach a monument he used to take for granted. "Hey," he said softly. "Hey," I replied, and walked right past him, not out of cruelty, out of peace. Because the woman he once loved had become someone untouchable, not because of wealth or status, but because I had learned that dignity is the sharpest sword, and truth, the finest armor. And sometimes, the best revenge isn't rage or destruction, it's becoming everything they told you couldn't be and more.